All right, guys, I'm back here in Fullerton at Happy Jewelers with the one, the only Danny. How are you, brother?
How are you, sir? Always good seeing you.
So last week we went over a fleet of land dwellers, and I know that was initially thought of as maybe a bit of a controversial release.
Yeah.
In the video, if you haven't seen it, I'll link it down here. I'll put it in the corner, whatever. We compared it to an oyster quartz, a vintage oyster quartz that they also had here. That just shows you the depth of different kinds of inventory you guys have here. There is something, I think, in the current Rolex fleet of dwellers that is even more enigmatic and misunderstood than the land dweller. And what would that be, Danny?
The Sky Dweller.
100%.
The Sky Dweller.
100%. We have 3 here right now. They have a few more in the case. I'll get some macro footage for you. Now, what is your overall opinion? Salesperson aside, what is your overall opinion of these watches? We'll hold a couple up here.
I love the Sky Dweller. I love the design of it. I love what it stands for. I love the mechanics and the movement behind it. I think it was very well thought out by Rolex, the way they placed, the month, the dual time zone, and the date wheel, and just the design in general, and that bracelet, the Jubilee bracelet just does it for me.
Yeah.
I mean, the oversize, the thickness.
Yep.
But the beauty of Rolex is, even though they make bigger watches, they don't make them uncomfortable. They think about the wrist of the normal person wearing it when they're designing the watch.
And I know some of the purists out there think that the whole bigger is better movement in the watch world of design is moving in the wrong direction. What I will say is these watches are very, very wearable, and this almost shrinks when it's on your wrist. And I'm not saying it's a small watch, but every time I've gotten to wear one, I was a little intimidated, but it is very, very cool, very wearable, very comfortable, as he said, and a very interesting complication. And this is listed actually as Rolex's most complicated watch, believe it or not.
It is.
So,
because there's no other watch that gives you everything that this watch does.
Right. So explain what is going on within the mechanism here and how you actuate it. This is what's crazy.
Yeah, so you got, let me do it on this one because it's better. So you see, I'll show you guys. So right over here, you see at the 5 o'clock, you're gonna see that little red marker right over there. That actually stands for the month, okay? I don't know if they can see that on the camera.
We'll get macro footage for you guys.
Okay, so right over there, it's gonna be at the 5 o'clock. So that's gonna represent the actual month of the watch, right? So it's gonna be May. As that moves as you're wearing the watch, it's gonna represent the month. So when it goes to 6, it's June. When it goes to 7, it's July, and so on. The middle section over there where you see the 24-hour time zone, that's actually your military time.
Awesome.
And then the watch will give you the date. So the watch will give you the month, the date, and a dual time zone, and it's all based on the bezel itself.
Right, so this is pretty much the first time that there is a fluted bezel, non-marked, in a Rolex catalog that you can actually actuate. Is that correct?
Yes.
So this is known as their patented, I believe they patented it, Saros annual calendar, which is something unique for Rolex. It's something unique to this watch. And as he said, it does a whole lot in a very nice, contained, sophisticated package. I'm gonna let you guys at home pick your favorite out of the ones that I show you. Out of the ones here, Danny, which one would be your all-time favorite?
I like the blue. I like the blue with the Jubilee.
Blue is a very easy color to wear.
Yes, it is. And you know what's funny is the green dial goes for the most, but the blue dial sells the best.
Wouldn't you agree, though, that is the curse of the Rolex green anything? Yeah. Like if there's any green on a Rolex anywhere, it will go up.
I mean, look how pretty that is.
It's just a beautiful watch.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful watch. And if you're expecting this to wear like a 36 mil date just, that's obviously not going to happen.
No.
But this watch does a whole lot more than a 36 mil date just. My favorite is actually that green. Values aside, you guys know me, I'm not really into collecting for the value attribute, but I'm not a salesperson on his level, you know what I mean? If I ran Happy Jewelers, it would last maybe a week because I'd keep all the inventory and I wouldn't let go of anything. Never get high on your own supply.
All the checks will start bouncing. Jordy's not going to sell any of them.
But anyway, this green has to be my favorite of the ones we have on the table. They do have a gorgeous precious metal.
They do. Let me grab it. It's not in the case. I literally Just bought it while you were standing there.
Okay. Well, they just
So I'm
got
gonna
it.
grab it from the incoming.
All right, so Danny just brought probably, oh my God, I'm getting tired holding it. If you guys see me lean over, it's a lot of gold. This one in Everose with a gorgeous blue dial. I don't know, like,
Honestly, the prettiest. It's pretty. I mean, the rose with the contrast of that blue, I mean, it hits so many different feelings.
The blue pops and the Everose is very warm and it's like this contrast. I think the only way that this is outdone is the chocolate dial.
You think so?
But it's because I'm bizarrely partial to that. Now, just as some like peek behind the curtain, how does the browns, how do they move? How do they sell?
They sell very well.
They sell well.
Yeah. The chocolate and the blue probably sell just as well as each other.
Interesting.
It's a personal preference.
Right.
Right? For me, I love contrast. Anybody
100%.
that knows me knows I love color and I love contrast. The brighter it is, the more I like it, right? You give me a neon watch, I mean, that's my jam, you know? So I like the contrast of the rose with the blue. The chocolate is nice, but it blends in.
Right, it's much more subdued. It's a very different vibe. Again, if you're looking for something that pops and you got the pockets for it, I would tell you that this is the king of all the ones we have here currently. Now, what do you see as far as, you know, the market and the trends? Do people go more towards the precious metal or do they stay towards the stainless steel with these watches? Like, what are people doing?
It's tough to say, right? Because it's all based on price point.
Right.
Right, and it's all based on wearability, right? So you're gonna sell much more the stainless steel ones because people are obviously gonna be able to wear it daily. Right, it's more affordable. They're gonna be able to wear it to work. They're gonna be able to wear it to this. Whereas this is a little bit more of a flashy watch. Now there are people that will wear this every day,
100%.
right? But your normal average person is only gonna wear this to dinner, or they're out at a wedding, or a special function, or something like that. It's not gonna be an everyday piece. So sellable wise, the stainless steel ones will sell 10 times over.
Awesome.
But the rose gold ones sell just as well, as in like we're not sitting on these.
Right.
The shelf life, you know, shelf life for a Rolex stainless, sorry, I'm talking like a businessman now.
It's all good. It's all good. I asked you the question.
Yeah.
So.
It's maybe like 14 days.
Right.
Whereas this would be like maybe 20, 21 days.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they're moving regardless.
They're moving.
Like,
there's no bad Rolex.
Right.
And that's, you know, kudos to them.
Now there's one wild card. We might put this in a separate video, but you guys have had a 1908 platinum.
Yes.
And do you categorize that as like, because you say there's no bad Rolex.
Yeah.
I'm not inferring that the 1908s are bad, but I feel like the Cellini line got dissolved. There are no Cellinis.
But the 1908, I'll tell you like this.
It's not an oyster case Rolex. That's what I'm getting at.
No, if the watch is priced right, it'll sell like that.
Okay.
That's what I like when I'm saying like bad Rolex, as in like there's a customer for every single Rolex. It's not like one of your other like non-brands where you'll buy it, you'll stock it, and it's only going to be a specific person that's going to buy it. You're going to sit on it for 3 months. A 1908, if you price it out of the market, it ain't going to sell. If you price it right, the watch will sell within 2 weeks.
Right. And that's true, I think, for most products across the board. If you price it incorrectly, it's not. But what I will tell you though is I kind of wrote off the Cellini line. That's what I'm getting at. The 1908s though are I believe another misunderstood Rolex simply because it is not in an oyster case. It is not a sports watch, and that's why I think it is so damn important. But we're not even talking about those.
But you know what's funny? Sorry to cut you off.
No, you're good. You're good.
Is after the 1908 came out, every single Cellini watch that I've had and I bought sold right away because
that's insane.
Because like imagine, right? You have a white gold Cellini.
They dissolved that whole line because they did not sell. By the way.
But it's like you're getting a white gold Rolex on a strap, right? Some of the newer models, you're picking them up under $15,000.
Right.
Where are you going to get a white gold Rolex watch on a leather strap that's classy, elegant?
Nowhere.
10 to 15K.
Right.
The older ones with even thinner, you can pick them up for $4,000 to $6,000. That's for a Rolex. Yeah, it might not be somebody's favorite watch out there.
Right.
But if you want a Rolex on your wrist and you have that $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 budget.
And again, I want to be clear here. I think that there are a few very misunderstood Rolexes in the catalog. First one being the Land Dweller, obviously the Sky Dweller, which we're focusing on right now, but also the 1908s. And again, they have a gorgeous one here. I'm going to put some macro footage up. But what, in regards to this line of Sky Dwellers, do you think, because I ask you this every time I'm here, what do you think Rolex could do differently that you would like to see within the Sky Dweller line? It's it's a very difficult question.
That is a very difficult question. In terms of design?
Yeah, anything, because I mean, I always love getting your input because you handle these watches with much more volume than I do. So, for instance, I remember last month we spoke about how you would like to see different dimensions on the Land Dwellers. Would you say the same for the Sky Dwellers, or
no?
Do you want them to stay where it's at? Are you wanting more two-tone options with them?
You know what they can do? Well, it'd be really, really cool if they added a moon phase on it.
Oh, that'd be insane. See, it's funny that you say that because that's what I think they should do on the 1908s.
The 1908s, they should for sure. I don't know why they didn't do that.
I thought they were going to do that this year, and they didn't.
But if they had that moon face right over there, right in between the GMT, Rolex, if you're listening, add a moon face on this, please.
Honestly, though, regardless of which variant you choose here, which colorway, which flavor, if you will, you're not going to pick a bad Sky Dweller.
No.
I have my preferences. Obviously, I think this green is absolutely insane. He's obviously more partial to the blue.
Yeah.
I don't think we've given the white enough love, but
the white's nice.
It is so nice. This is not a flat white.
No.
Okay, this is almost...
It's almost like ivory.
It's almost like an ivory.
Mm-hmm.
When you tilt it and it catches the light, it almost gets a cream tone to it. It's a beautiful watch, and again, I suppose if you're not into color and you don't want blue, this would be the next most wearable option.
It reminds me of, like, back in the day, the Escalades. Pearl white.
Yes, the pearl white. Thank you so much for letting me handle these watches. Again, I would not have access to any of these without my boys at Happy Jewelers.
Thank you.
Guys, if you are ever in Southern California, stop by in person. Ask for Danny or Gabe or any of the beautiful people that work here. Tell them the Time Teller sent you. And guess what? If you're very far away, they do business online too. So just let them know your bearded buddy told you to stop by, Danny. Thank you so much, bro.
Always. Thank you.